The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen only.
Without further ado, the Sunday night webinar. I'm Gene Colbago.
And I'm Roger Carroll.
And Mr. Laurie is with us. So,
Hi.
And I think
Hello.
if I click this, there he is. Is this Mr. Laurie?
Wow.
There he
yes, it is. Nice.
You know,
Nice.
I have to admit, I was a little concerned because I didn't have a picture.
That's okay. That's a good one.
Well,
I don't mind that picture.
So I figured I would do the logical thing. I went into Google and typed a picture of Mr. Laurie.
Yeah.
And about 15 showed up.
Really? That's all?
Well,
I'm kidding.
And it said we're only posting the good ones. That's what it said. Yeah, it said we're only posting the good ones. So
they must have really had to look far. There were very few and far between to get the good ones.
Oh no, there were a number. Well, anyhow, hey, Mr. Laurie's with us, and without any further ado, Mr. Laurie.
Yeah, thank you, Roger and Gene, for doing this. It's really a unique and interesting way to do it. I was talking to some people about this today, and they can't believe that we do this. And it's another one of the things that the school district does that makes us so unique and different. I see the teachers that are on and that are listening, and I appreciate them very much. It makes them unique and different at 8 o'clock on a Sunday, when sometimes we get the Sunday night rumbles in our stomach. I still get that on Sunday night to make sure we're going to have a good week, to be able to do this service. Ray Granary, who took over for Darlene Sprague, has not missed a beat and continues to move the district forward with technology, so we appreciate him. I guess I'd begin. You guys got to cut me off if I'm rambling too much or there's a question. Just interrupt me. But
okay, just for a second, if people do have a question who are online with us, they can use the chat feature or the question feature, and then we'll feed them to you as we see them.
Great. I'm pretty pleased with the way the school year started. I think that we're right into instruction. I was in a classroom at 9:30 on the first day and saw a teacher had students in groups doing a math lesson at Kelphus, which was great to see at 9:30, and it was a first grade class, so it was awesome to see that. I've been able to visit all the schools. I haven't spent as much time in the classrooms at high school as I'd like to, but I'll get to that this week. We had a faculty meeting at G.J. Mann. Tomorrow's faculty meeting is at Harry Abbott. I'd like to address the faculties about these goals that I'll talk to you about tonight, and get to have some closer interaction with the staff and tell them where we're going. Why don't I jump right in? I think that the two biggest topics, maybe the most interesting ones for our listeners, are this whole idea of a vocational school and the pairing of sister schools. So let me start with that, and maybe that'll generate some questions too. I want to do two studies this year. Last year was our year of study about healthy behaviors, and we're implementing the curriculum with our health teacher in elementary and our services coming in grades 7 to 12. This year is a year of two studies. The first one, excuse me, I don't know what order we're going to do these in yet, but the first one is going to be to see whether there's benefit to making Harry Abbott School and Niagara Street School, I'll call them sister schools. And I don't know which would be which, but one of the schools would be a pre-K to 3 school, pre-K 3 to second grade, and the other school would be an intermediate school, grades 3 through 6. And then be able to put resources forward that are more germane to early childhood as opposed to intermediate elementary education, and programs around those grade levels. And I think there might be some benefit. We would really work on busing all the kids in that area as best we could. I know we could pour a lot of resources into our early childhood, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and really make it that kind of a very primary centered school, and then the other school more intermediate centered. I don't want to just do it. I want to get some public feedback. Probably invite parents to come in. Definitely invite parents to come in, talk to parents, talk to teachers, talk to administrators, and potentially do that in a year or two. I think it can be done, and if there's academic benefit to it, I want to do it. I've always thought that maybe the pre-K to 6th grade configuration was too big, and we could centralize resources. The second study that we're going to do is on this vocational school, And I need to preface this by saying I have nothing but respect and praise for BOCES, the BOCES programs, but I think that I know our kids after being in the district for 35 years, and I think it's really important to our high school kids that they stay in their home school and they stay in their city. Despite the fact that we have 280 kids going to BOCES for different things, I'm going to propose a school that has 4 trades in it: electric, becoming an electrician, becoming a carpenter, becoming an HVAC, heating and cooling person, and becoming something to do with plumbing. So those 4 trades, because those are really, really good skilled jobs. I think we're not tapping into those students who may want to do it. I think it's too late to wait till 11th grade to have kids get into those fields. I think that they should be taking one class at least in 9th grade, a few more in 10th, and then full blown in 11th and 12th, because I know we could work with our trade unions in the area and filter students to be apprentices right out of Niagara Falls High School if they're not college bound. Now, we made a decision at the board level, and this might be cutting edge news here for the webinar, but we are not going to pursue the Niagara Catholic building for a number of reasons. They're going to put the Niagara Catholic building on the market soon, and we notified them of that on Friday, and they wanted us. They very nicely gave us the right of first refusal on that building and that facility. But I recommended to the board, and they agreed Thursday evening that we would not be pursuing that parcel of land for a number of reasons I could be happy to share with you. But that doesn't stop my desire, the board's desire, to create this vocational school. One of the things that I want to look at doing, and we just started working on this on Friday, so it's very new in its infancy, but hopefully some of the listeners to the webcast could think about this and give us ideas, is I'd like to possibly put another facility right on the property of Niagara Falls High School. If you know where the driving range is of the golf course, and we have our maintenance barn there, for a lot of reasons, I think we're better off starting from the floor and building up some kind of a facility that houses those trades. And my thinking is this: the kids don't need to be bused. The kids can take their academic classes in the school. The kids can go to sports. The kids can be really participatory in homecoming events and all the things that they don't like to leave or miss. And I wanted to do a little bit of a study about whether we could put another facility. I'm not talking about the bricks and mortar of the high school, but something like that blue building, that Butler building that we have out there now, and make that a shop for the trades. That's one of the ideas we have, and I want to explore that more. The other property that we own is that we own a building on Elmwood Avenue already. We already own this building. It's at 1170. It's behind Trot. It was the shop for the trades of the district until we put them in schools and located them centrally here. That building is ours. I walked through it with Earl Smeal last week, and it's got a real lot of room for shops, electricity, carpentry, etc. The thinking behind passing on Niagara Catholic was, even though if we go to the high school area, we might have to build something, the cost to get that building in shape would have really cut into the program. And I don't want to, with the facilities we have, I don't want to spend money on buildings, with the exception of what I said about that Butler building, when we could be putting it into programs and machinery and things like that. So I've kind of moved away from that Niagara Catholic building, but I haven't moved away from this idea of coming full circle on the old Trot and making a vocational school. So I threw a lot out there with those sentences and those words, but that's kind of where my head is for the webcast listeners to digest. In the next week or two, I'm going to put a study group together. Maybe there's an option that we haven't thought of, but I wanted to be definitive about the Niagara Catholic building because I know it's been on a lot of people's mind, and I didn't want to hold the Niagara Catholic sale up giving us the right of first refusal so that they can move forward and hopefully get some good property owners out of that area. And they've nicely waited for us. But I think it's time to move on. But it's not time to move away from a vocational type facility, and I think we can do it. So I'll take a breath there. I don't know if there's any questions or comments from you guys. No, Dave, I see your question. Thank you for writing that. What a trades? No, so we would still have BOCES for those students that want to go to BOCES. That would be, food service, cosmetology, health. There are other programs that these would be programs that BOCES doesn't offer. I would never do welding. Welding is offered at NCCC, and we have quite a few kids from the high school doing welding there. So these would be programs that BOCES doesn't offer. Because something I'd have to do is go to the state and make the case for why don't you just want to do it at BOCES. And I want to make a compelling reason to say that these are very particular skilled trades to the area of Niagara Falls and Niagara County, and that we have the support of the trades unions who would come and work with teachers we would hire to not only train the kids, but to hire the kids. The other thing that I would do in that facility is that I would put a drug and alcohol rehabilitation counselor in that wherever the facility is, because the biggest thing I hear from the trades union is that people who want to get into the trades can't pass the drug test, and I wouldn't. I would want to do some kind of drug testing, random, announced and random drug testing, even with high school kids. It's a little bit different and out of the box, and I'm sure there's lots of legal ramifications we'll have to work through. But we have to give these kids every chance and opportunity. And I wouldn't, if a student failed the drug test, I wouldn't suspend them, wouldn't throw them out of the program. I would tell them that before they could re-enter the BOCES and get on the machinery, that they'd have to show so many clean tests or something or go through their counseling or something like that. But it's time to stop hearing no one could pass the drug test, no one has transportation, and to actually do something about it. I think this plan would start to do something about it. So we wouldn't eliminate BOCES. There's just too many other niches for kids in BOCES to say we wouldn't do it. So thanks for your question. I hope my answer made sense. Anything else? Can you hear me?
I don't see any other questions right now.
All right, I'll move on, but I appreciate Dave's question. Let me move on to some other things. Let's stick with let's go to finances. That's always interesting. We have two major financial, three. Let's talk about three major financial goals this year. One is that we are negotiating with all six of our unions. So all six of our unions, and we have six of them. We have the teachers union, we have a substitute teachers union, which is separate. We have a CSEA union, which is and we have a CSEA union, which is the associates, so it's called TAL. So there's a CSEA union with the maintenance workers, the secretaries, the nurses, etc. And then we have a CSEA union called TAL, they're the associates. We have an administrators union, and we have a non-instructional administrators union. Those would be people like Earl Smeal and Kevin Edwards, our food service person. So all of their contracts expire June 30th, so that's going to be a real heavy lift and work. We've already started meeting with most of the groups, and I give our unions credit because they are cognizant of the city we live in, they're cognizant of the economic times, and they're cognizant of the fact that they're compensated well, they're treated well. I hope they feel that way, and they have good health benefits. But still, the cost of living goes up, and we could always make things better. So that will be a big task for us centrally this year. Secondly, we kick off the capital projects. We're just waiting for state ed to approve our capital projects. We think we're about a month away, And once they approve the capital projects, then we put them on the street for bidding. I want to have those documents on the street, as they say, for bidding around October or November. It's a good time to do that because all the summer work is over. And what you'll see is a whole new outer shell around Niagara Falls High School. Sidewalks, bus loops, front loop, driveways, all torn up. You'll see a new roof on Niagara Falls High School. You'll see a new roof on Maple Avenue School. You'll see a new roof on Cataract Elementary School. You will see a new hot kitchen in 79th Street, so that will complete all schools' kitchens. You'll see new toilets and sinks at Cataract. Those are, and you'll see new windows at GJ Mann. Those are some of the big highlights of the capital projects phase 1. That's $25 million. And then the second phase is another $30 million, and that's where the air conditioning is. The air conditioning for the 4 elementary schools is in the second phase, which is 2 years out. So that's where that is. And we just sent a team to visit schools with air conditioning in the south, a unit that we might want to use. Earl Smeal and an architect and a couple of our maintenance guys went to Kentucky to look at this new system that they're using. And hopefully in 2 years we'll have it in place in our 4 un-air conditioned elementary schools, and then we'll work on the middle schools. So that's coming up. You'll see shovels in the ground in May. Now with the high school, interesting if you haven't heard it, I'm going to move all of the programs out of there next summer. The only people that will be in the high school next summer are the administrators and secretaries and cleaners and painters. Next summer, we want to I envision 2 crews of maintenance workers starting on the top of that building and working their way right down to the first floor, scrubbing, painting, cleaning, reaffixing everything possible. Why is it a good year to do that? Because we're going to be working heavy construction outside. We'll have one entrance and exits for everybody to get in and out of, but I don't want any students there. We have summer school, we'll have them in the prep schools, and we'll have them in the elementary schools. So we can really take care of Niagara Falls High School for the first time in almost 20 years. The last piece of the financial picture is the budget. Our auditors will be here in 1 week. I'm hopeful, and I'm not hopeful, I'm confident that this audit will show, again, no findings in our financial practices, which I think gets really underreported in a district of $140 million. They don't find any findings, $140 million, no findings. I think that's way underreported, but that's okay. I'm glad that we work in this environment. And that'll let us know what the budget looks like, and then we'll go into full budget mode. One of the things that we're talking about with the school board, because I don't think we just can't keep expecting the state to giving us more and more and more and more money. We're gonna lobby and get our money that we need to because of our poverty conditions in the city, but we are looking and exploring something that we call sponsorship rights. We have beautiful athletic fields, and in states like Texas and Illinois and other places, they can name those facilities in a very appropriate way and garner money for those fields just by putting a name on it. For instance, Lancaster did this. There's a field house at Lancaster. It's called the Russell Salvatore Field House. Mr. Salvatore, who I'd like to become good friends with, gave Lancaster $1 million. And I think there's potential where we are to do the same thing. So you're going to see and hear more about that as a way to raise some revenue here in the district. And again, it will be tasteful and done right, but we know that those are good facilities. Interestingly, I was talking this weekend about this concept of naming, and somebody said if you build that Butler building on the premises of Niagara Falls, you might be able to sell the naming rights to that building. Some company that does trades might want to do that. So we're going to look at that, and I see a really good question here. Summer school and the prep school it is a heat concern. both of those are probably the two warmest buildings that we have. So we're summer school only runs in the morning, and I know it still gets hot by 11:30. I know that happens. We're also looking at Abbott and Niagara Street for summer school. The problem with Abbott and Niagara Street is that we would have to move furniture, which would cause another layer of work and taking the gentlemen and ladies out of work for work in cleaning, just to do all those movement of furniture because you're putting bigger kids in there. That's why we initially looked at the two prep schools, and we looked at starting to get some split units in the two prep schools to cool down some of the rooms, maybe starting on the first floor to bring fans in, and hopefully we'll encourage fewer and fewer kids to go to summer school. But the questioner is right. It is extremely hot in those two prep buildings. Last week on the first day of school, I went to Gaskill, and early in the morning, and by the time I left at 9:30, my shirt was soaked. And I said, I don't think I can handle LaSalle, so I give the credit to the teachers from Gaskill and LaSalle and Mann and 79th Street. It was very warm. But we're talking about bringing in big fans. We're talking about looking at some split units to get the prep school started for next summer. We're looking at Abbott and Niagara Street, two big schools, but we're trying to do it without moving a lot of furniture because there's air conditioning there. So to me, it is important to have summer school in the city because kids need to have those credits recovered, but it's also important to get Niagara Falls High School right in terms of cleanliness and railings reaffixed and lights done and painting. It's hard to paint the inside of that school when there's teachers and kids in there for obvious reasons. So there may be a summer when we just have to bite the bullet and do it with fans, and this is the opportune time. But I am cognizant of the heat. So I appreciate that question, and we'll be studying that more and see if it's just not worth going to Abbott and Niagara Street for the bigger kids and using the elementary at Kelphus and Cataract maybe, because those are the four schools. So I'll have to see what it looks like in terms of moving furniture to do it. But I know about the heat, and I'm worried about it too, but I have to do something with high school, and I think we have to bite the bullet there. Another staff storing supplies is a huge concern as well. Chris, thank you for asking that. We certainly don't want to lose money. We don't have to replace supplies. So we'll announce the plan well in advance. We'll allow teachers, if we use the middle schools, the prep schools, we'll allow teachers time to secure their wares. We'll give them time to secure them. We'll provide them with proper storage huts or storage bins or whatever you would take. So I really want to get this plan developed and launched by the first of the year. So if we're going to use the prep schools, and again, I'm not 100% sure we will, but I like the idea to leverage to get some cooling, at least maybe on the first floor or second floor of that school, both schools. We'll have to give a lot of consideration to storage that is unlike Niagara Falls High School where they have locking cabinets. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And thank you, Chris. It will work out. I know that together we can do anything. Somebody asked an interesting question about technology, and I really like it too. Oh, it was Dave Glahe. I see. Could summer school be done through technology like this webinar? I really like that. I really think that that's a really viable, pilotable option, Dave. I would want to have a combination of some type of webinar with a visit. That's what colleges do. I know. They have hybrid classes where you go twice a month and you go online and do things. I don't see why we couldn't look at that. I think it's time to look at that. I think we're trying to prepare high school kids for college. So that's the kind of thinking that Dave just shared that I want to put out when we do the study teams for next year's summer school, and we do the study teams for vocations, and when we do the study teams for Abbott and Niagara Street. So that thinking about through technology and through webinars is just the kind of idea that I don't ever have, but smart people like Chris, Chove, and Dave do.
Mark, in the past, Niagara Falls has hosted summer school students from other districts.
Right. That's how we get.
Is it possible to reverse that for a summer if needed? Yes. You know, if there was no viable alternative within district.
Yeah, it could. We thought about that, Niagara Wheatfield possibly. My concern, Roger and everyone, is I just want to make sure our kids, our Niagara Falls kids, don't get. And I know the counter to this is, well, they didn't pass during the year, they should have to get on a bus and go to Wheatfield or Newport. I just don't want to. I don't want to put any barriers in front of our kids' graduation as we're trying to move the graduation needle. But yeah, that's for 1 year. That's an option. And this very intelligent-looking gentleman, who I can't see him, named Matthew Laurie, said, "Wouldn't student access to computers make it difficult to pilot?" Yeah, we'd have to make sure. But Matthew's right. He thinks a lot like his mother, who's much smarter than me, and he's more like her. But he's right. We'd have to make sure that those kids that were going to pilot the idea that Dave mentioned would be able to check out a computer at Niagara Falls High School. They'd probably have to bring it in. They'd probably have to do some different things that I would have Mr. Graneri work on, but I don't think it's an impossibility. I really don't. Even if we do a few classes, so Dave, I think you got Ray work. Gave Ray some work, because I think it would be a cool thing to do, and we would have to provide the computers for kids. And I think I'll segue to another topic based on Matthew and Dave's question, and let Ray think about how he's going to do it. I have this sense about school in the future, and it goes back to Dave's question about computers. I know our kids are very, very computer literate because of the work of our teachers, because of the work on their own. I know my own children, how they just blow me away with their skills. They're incredible with the computers and what they know. And I think that, more and more kids can learn from technology. But what they can't learn from technology is the human touch, the human interaction, the civility. That's why I think there's going to be a real shift in public schools from content knowledge to emotional intelligence, I'll call it, to use a term that's kind of broad. That's why this whole mental health issue is so big. I think we're going to become more and more mental health centers. That content is learned online, brought into school. We provide kids with strategies and skills to be mentally strong and sound, and prepared for their life. And yet I do think there are some vocational skills that will still remain in the high school, and maybe earlier, but you'll see more and more mental health programs being added. I think the state was right to tell us we have to do it. We didn't need a mandate to tell us we needed to do it in Niagara Falls. Just so everyone knows, we're going to hire 3 social workers in October. You'll see a posting for 3 social workers in October. I'd like 2 of those social workers to work in the elementary division. I'll give you quite an alarming statistic, if I haven't shared this with you already, that last year in kindergarten, 56% of our kindergartners across all of the schools missed 18 days of school or more. 56% of the kindergartners missed 18 days or more. That's 10%. That's a lot of school. And I'm at my desk, so I'm pulling this out. Actually, it was 53%. Interestingly, Maple Avenue had the best rate at 29%. And interestingly to me, Kalfas was second best at 36%. And I attribute that to the fact that everybody gets a bus to Kalfas. But that's a lot of missed time. Now, Abbott, 86% of the kindergartners missed 18 days or more. Cataract 69%, Hyde Park, because I see Hyde Park teacher on here, 59%. You go to first grade and it's 46%, second grade 36%. Those are pretty alarming numbers of student absences, and I think that we need to get some social workers in place to work with families, work with kids, and I'm going to ask our friends from the Niagara Falls teachers to allow us to hire those as NFT members, but to hire them not using the traditional day. I'd like a social worker to start at 7:30 in the morning and work till 2 or 2:30, and I'd like one to start work at 10 o'clock in the morning and work till 5. I'd like one to work on Sundays and have a Sunday to Thursday schedule, and maybe another a Tuesday to Saturday schedule, so that they're always working in the community. So I'm going to ask for that concession when we go to hire the social workers, because I think we need these people in the community who are really working with families all the time. So you'll see the hiring of these folks in October. We have 3 budgeted. I'm hoping that at the turn of the year, when we get the audit, we can hire another 1 or 2. We've hired an additional psychologist this year. We hired an additional music teacher. Why do I mention an additional music teacher at the high school? Because programs like music, phys ed, art, which I know we could use more of, those are mental health programs for us too. And I don't mean to demean those curriculums, but some kids come to school just because they're in music or drama or art or theater or sports. They're just as important as our core curriculum and equal footing to get kids into school. So I think it's really important that we keep robust offerings there, because there are kids that, if you're not interested in sports, you might be interested in art or drama. Frank Coney was a dean last year, and he told me that the middle school theater program, he single-handedly watched 2 students who had enormous number of discipline referrals have their discipline referrals completely eliminated when they got involved with the middle school theater program, because they wanted to be there. So I think to me, those are mental health programs as well, and we've got to do more of that. So I think getting back to online courses, and I think we can work through all the technology bugaboos, because we got good people like Roger and Jean and Ray and all the staff. I think we just have to look to deliver things differently. Maybe it's time for a negative, but everybody knows this, but I'm going to reinforce it. We are at not just we, because I know people continuously ask me about residency, but we are at an all-time low for substitute teachers and substitute workers across the district. All-time low. Never seen it like this. Human Resources was at a couple of community sites on Friday. They picked up 20 applicants, mainly in the associate area. We are working with our colleges for more teachers, but it is the teacher shortage is like I've never seen before. And the substitutes have been hired. Some of them are on the webinar, and I'm glad to see that. Because the SOSA or BBS program is really the interview for our substitutes. But it's like I've never seen it, the shortage of teachers, and it's the scariest part of my job. I'm feeling pretty good about the budget. I'm feeling pretty good about our test scores, which I'll speak about in a minute. I'm feeling pretty good about our student discipline, which I'll speak about in a minute. I am not feeling good about the human resources in terms of substitute teachers, substitute associates, et cetera, et cetera. So we had some busing issues this past week to start. It's directly a result of not having enough bus drivers at coach lines. They could use 10 bus drivers. If we had 10 more bus drivers at coach lines, the buses we would have no bus problems, because we could lighten the loads of some of the buses, and we could move kids and move people a lot faster. Let me couch that negative with a couple of positives. The test scores are still embargoed, but they're going to be released soon. I am extremely excited about our ELA scores this year. You're going to see a really nice jump in our ELA scores, if I'm reading them correctly. I think I am. Our math scores are okay. not as great, but they're coming. They're not declining. They're coming. But our ELA scores really, in a couple of places, are just off the charts, and in the rest of them trending way upward. So I'm really pleased with ELA 3 through 8. Let me stop, and my mind's really working now. Let me stop and say something about ELA. So we successfully, a lot to do with Ray Graneri and Marcia and others, but we successfully piloted the computer-based testing in grade 3. This year we're going to computer-based test in grades 3 through 8. I know the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade has a new amplified curriculum, and it lends itself to computer-based testing. The challenge we have right now, and the only negative that I can see, is at the prep school level. The state is telling us that we have to find 3 schools, because we only have 2. We have to find a 3rd school to do the scoring with. And I know the teachers like to score because they find that to be really good staff development. The struggle we're having is finding a 3rd school that has just a 7 and 8 configuration. Most schools are 6, 7, and 8. I don't know if there's any 7, 8, or 9s, but they're telling us we have to have an equal configuration in order to score, in-house. The option to not score in-house is to get vendor scoring. So we're looking at that as well in grades 7 and 8. But I know the teacher spoke to me during some of their scoring last year and said that it was very valuable. And if we're not able to find a colleague district, we'll have to look at vendor scoring and use the DAP process, which Marcia and others could talk about to do that kind of test analysis. But I'm real happy. Can't wait till they release the Niagara Falls scores. I think you're going to see a huge jump, especially in ELA, and a good jump in math in most places. I'll segue into something else that's really positive, and I hope people take advantage of this. We have put together a theater and drama series. So the thought was, we always send kids to some of the UB speaker series. I know I've gone a couple of times myself because they've had really great speakers, and everybody likes Shays because they want to see the release of the calendar and all the shows that come out. So why don't we try and do it in Niagara Falls and do it for our community and our students? So all of the speakers that I'll talk about and all of the theatrical performances are done first for the high school kids, and we'll include elementary and middle school kids. But we're going to have a number of theatrical performances. I think the middle school is going to try and do The Lion King this year, which is a really aggressive undertaking. The high school is going to do Smokey Joe's Cafe. They're going to do Steel Magnolias, Once on This Island. And they're going to have an alumni show where previous Niagara Falls High School theater students come back and perform with current students in a show. And then we're going to do an elementary show, which we need to do some work on. So that's 4 or 5 shows. We're also going to have a speaker series, and each month, well, at least the first 3 months of this year, this week we have Peter Herr, who is going to speak to the high school students. He's got a very compelling story. Next month we have, oh boy, his name is escaping me, but he is going to talk about mental health and Kevin Hines, mental health and suicide. This was a gentleman who attempted suicide a number of times by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and has written extensively about mental health and suicide. And he has a movie that's being released, and he's going to screen it for the first time at Niagara Street at night at 5:30, and it's going to be open to the public. In November, we'll have speakers on military affairs. We'll have women in the military, men in the military. We'll jump to March, where we'll have strong women leaders who are part of a speaker series. And we'll top it off in May with a gentleman named Cleve Jones. Cleve Jones is one of the foremost authorities and speakers on diversity in America. He is the person who started the National AIDS Quilt. He was with Harvey Milk, the mayor of San Francisco, when he was assassinated. He is world and nationally renowned and known. We have about 800 requests for tickets already to hear him speak at night. And we think for the first time since that theater was built at Niagara Falls High School, we're going to fill every seat with Cleve Jones. He speaks about diversity, acceptance, and civility, which is what this world needs more of. So you should see, it's going to come back from the printers. You should see a slick brochure, like a program that has all of the speakers and all of these plays and the dates in there, and we'll put them all over the community. In the winter, we're going to come back with our adult ed program as well. So we have a lot to do. We also would like to do I'd like to get back to an all-school read at Niagara Falls High School. I was the principal there in 2005. I believe we read the book Night by Eli Wiesel. Every student and staff member and some community members read it. Then we had speakers on the Holocaust. I'd like to read a book this year called Beautiful Boy, which I'm reading right now. It's about a son's struggle with addiction and his relationship with his father. I'd like to provide copies for everybody to read that book. So those are a couple of interesting things we have going on. I'll pause and take a breath. I'll look for more questions. Anyone?
I don't see any.
All right.
There we go.
Am I making sense, Roger?
Yes, I'm taking notes as fast as I can write, and of course we are going to. This is going to be recorded or is being recorded and will be posted to re-listen for more detail. And I noticed you're covering a lot of the things that appeared in our schools.
Right. That's what I'm trying. Yeah.
Thing.
Right. Thank you to my friend Lauren Falsetti.
Very well deserved.
Thank you. Yeah, Dave, we're going to tape that. We asked, one of the conditions for allowing the speakers to come in is that the OSC would tape them and show them on the OSC and rebroadcast them, especially Cleve Jones and Kevin Hines, before we would not stop them from coming, but we wanted to be able to tape these so that where appropriate, we could show them to kids or, high school kids maybe in the arena of Cleve Jones and Kevin Hines. Those are primarily middle school and high school speakers, but there will be other speakers, especially about the strong, powerful women leaders and military affairs that we'll tape, and you can show to your classes in little snippets and segments. So we'll tape them and re-show them and rebroadcast them on the OSC, which unfortunately is on channel 1302, so you don't see it on your TV, but you can get it streamed, which Rich Moranto does a really great job of streaming. So you can do that. I'm just looking at a couple of other initiatives. We at Kelfis School this year, we have hired our first 2 reading recovery teachers. Reading recovery is an intensive program where a teacher goes through about 6 days of training, and these are skilled veteran teachers, and they work one-on-one with a student first grader for 30 minutes and for a number of weeks, and it is an extremely intense intervention, but extremely effective. And we have 2 reading recovery teachers in the district, and I'm hoping that just like we've been adding 3-year-olds, we're going to add a reading recovery teachers to every school. Now, a reading recovery teacher can't take a full caseload of 20 or 25 kids, but they can get really in depth in terms of reading skills. They take one student at a time, 30 minutes every day. So you can map out your day and see you can't get to more than 9 students while you take a break and take a lunch. And we've got Lisa Graff and Deanna Cudahy, our first 2 reading recovery teachers. They're great elementary teachers. We had a great response to that, and I hope to expand that reading recovery program with a lot more teachers. The other interesting, I find it interesting, and I find it really proud thing that this district is going to do is last year we started Unified Sports. Unified Sports, the league, the Western Section 6 has only had 10 schools do it. Niagara Falls was one of 10 schools to start a unified team. We started it in 2 sports. We started it in bowling, and we started it in boys and girls basketball. So boys and girls bowling and boys and girls basketball. This is when our physically handicapped children students are paired with a non-handicapped student, and they compete against another school. So we would have we'd have a bowling contest. They would bowl and actually keep score and have winners and get the uniforms. They wore their shirts and uniforms, or Wolverine uniforms. And then we did it in basketball. And we played Akron in unified basketball, and we had 500 people come to the game. We had the band, the pep band there, the cheerleaders there, and the Niagara Falls unified basketball team won at the buzzer, and then went on to win the championship of the 10-team Unified Sports League, which was really cool. So it was awesome. I mean, we have that tape. You should watch the end of that game. You'll get chills up and down your spine. Why I tell you that is because we're starting a program called TIES. TIES will start in February. TIES will start at the high school. TIES is when you don't have to play a sport, but a handicapped student will be paired with a general education student, and they'll just be buddies and friends and partners and peers, and eat lunch together and go places and do things together. It's really a wonderful program. Our unified program benefited our non-handicapped students as much, if not more, than our handicapped students. I'm really proud of being one of 10 districts that did it. Another unspoken, less talked about thing, but I'm really proud to be a small part of that process and that program. So proud of our teachers that coached, so proud of our kids. So that's where that's going this year as well. So those, I talked about computer-based testing. I think I covered, as you said, Roger, all of the things that we've been talking about in our schools. And what I'm going to do is, because we've done this list of things for the last 2 years that I've been superintendent, so I have somebody putting a report together to say, we didn't get 100% of them. I think we got about 80% of our goals started. We need to keep them going, and I think the first year we got about 70% of them, but it's no good if my plan book doesn't get measured and evaluated just like a teacher's plan book would. So I want to publish the results of the first 2 years, just so the teachers know. I get evaluated as a superintendent. The 9 members of the board, who are my bosses, will give me my evaluation on September 27th. I have not seen it. I haven't been involved with it. They do that privately, and they'll present it to me on the 27th. My evaluation has to be posted in the district clerk's office. I'd like to do it at a public meeting. If a teacher's evaluation, I know that there's some rules about that, but I think my evaluation should be public. I'm going to ask the board to publish it. I know there'll be areas that I have to work on. I think there's areas we all have to work on, but if we don't know what those are, we'll never get better. So I know that that's coming up, and just like teachers get evaluated, I do too. And I know there's areas that I need to improve on and work on, and I really think it's important that the community see my evaluation, so that they can not tell me I'm doing great or bad or whatever, but this is where you need to improve. This is where you need to pay a little bit more attention. So that's coming up on September the 27th. So you can look forward to seeing that. I'll ask Judy to publicize it once the board makes it official and they've seen it. And I've had a chance to respond to it just like any other employee would respond to their evaluation. But I'm not concerned about that at all. I think we should all know that we need to be evaluated and looked at and spoken to and corrected, and I'm no exception to that. So that's coming up for me. Trying to think if I missed anything here.
I'm looking at the article, Mark. You mentioned about transportation assistance for public to attend the health fairs, etc.
Yeah. So thanks, Roger. I missed that. So I've gone to a lot of community meetings, and everybody says the same thing. We don't have transportation. We can't get here. We can't get there. So last May, the public approved a referendum for the district to lease to purchase $650,000 worth of vehicles. Many of those vehicles are going to be trucks, plows. I think you'll all agree on this one. You ever notice in the winter when they plow the sidewalks, they also plow the grass? It's not because they're bad drivers. It's because the plows are too wide for the sidewalks. So we've got to get appropriate sized plows for sidewalks. We need to keep our fleet up to date, our fleet of vehicles up to date. In that fleet of vehicles, we're looking to purchase 2 8-passenger vans because there are many times when parents or students don't need a full-sized, expensive bus to get to a health fair or to get to a job site or a work site or to go to Buffalo for a field trip. With the purchase of an 8-passenger van and the proper licensure of the drivers, we can very easily transport people, and we could take that excuse away that we hear so often that yeah, we'd come, but we don't have transportation. Well, even if it's to transport a small group of people to one of the speaker series, we'll have a couple of soon, once we get them out to bid and purchase them, we'll have a couple of 8-passenger vehicles that we'll be able to use to get people around the community at least, because I would like to take that excuse away from some people who don't come. The other thing that I'm proud of, and I'm seeing it in a couple of schools, Niagara Street is really becoming the leader in this, is that looking to meet families and parents in non-traditional places. I talked about having parent-teacher conferences in different places, or even having parent-teacher conferences online, or using technology would make sense at some times. But I want to, there's a lot of parents who don't feel comfortable for various reasons, including their own maybe bad experience at school, coming into a school. But with the proper safety and security, we could have conferences at a community center or a Tim Hortons or some area where we could, segregate the area, keep it confidential, and have people gather and meet, not in a school. Speaking of security, I didn't talk about that, but I should. We now have 4 armed school resource officers. These are Niagara Falls police officers. There are 2 at Niagara Falls High School. For 420,000 square feet, 1 school resource officer I never thought was enough. We have 1 full-time at LaSalle and 1 full-time at Gaskill. And I'd love to have 1 at every school. We're just not there yet. I'm looking for ways to do that. The sheriff told us that 4 school resource officers is as many as they have in the whole county for the other 10 schools, because they're split up. And we have 4 in Niagara Falls, and I know our kids aren't that much more challenging. But I want to give the community a sense of security and support. At the elementary schools, Chief Del Porto has asked that anytime one of his officers is driving by a school, I know this just happened at 79th Street, that the officer pull over and take a walk through the school. Just pull the car over, walk the hall, say hello, go in the lunchroom. So I'm really pleased with the Board of Education allowing us, that's the school district, spending that money to purchase those police officers. It's worth every penny for peace of mind and security of our students. I can't leave the webinar without talking about Niagara Falls High School and the graduation rate. I talked about some good things you're going to see in grades 3 through 8. We have a new principal at Niagara Falls High School. She's not new to the district, but Mrs. Jones is over at the high school. She has taken a very forthright stance on safety and order, and the school has opened up that way, I think, and that's important, followed only by graduation rate, which is next important after safety. And we've got to move from 77%. We've got to move that needle in this district. And I'm hoping that last year we talked about healthy behaviors, kids that are taking care of kids and making better choices about their sexual and mental and physical health. The vocational program hopefully will move the needle for kids that aren't interested in school but want to start a trade. The focus has got to be on moving that graduation needle from 77%. And I call it 77% because if you look, that's the 5-year rate if someone's checking me, because I don't care if it takes you 4 or 5 years as long as you graduate. Next board meeting, we're going to have 9 kids who graduated in August to come to the board meeting. Doesn't matter. You got to have a high school diploma. Whether you get it in 5 years, 4.5 years, 4 years, it doesn't matter. You have even a high school diploma isn't enough anymore, but you got to have that. And we've got to move the 77% rate higher. We've got to we got to hit the 80s. I know 90 would be. I want to be realistic. I want it to be 100%, of course, but 90% would be really high, good aspirational goal for the high school. That's going to take a lot of work. We're not going the wrong way, but we're not moving fast enough. So that's certainly an important thing to me and to the district and to the city. And I think the positive part of that is we have more and more kids coming out of high school with college credits already. There are kids that come out of Niagara Falls High School with 24 college credits, 9 college credits, 31 college credits, 6, 3. If I could have a conversation with the governor about education, I would ask him to take his money that he puts in the Excelsior program of college, paying for the first year of college, and giving it to high school seniors to start taking college credits in their senior year and earning it there, and letting the money be used in high school for college classes. So even the low amount of money some pay for those college classes could be absorbed through that pot of money. But it's a great and another untold story of Niagara Falls High School, the number of college credits that come out of that school. Wow, 8:57.
We're reaching that magic hour.
Well, we've covered an awful lot of ground here, Mr. Laurie, and it's just terrific. I think that the direction is for Niagara Falls to be a really true learning community.
Yep.
And everything that is just broadening that goal. And our logo is learning for all, whatever it takes.
Right.
And alluded to a lot of aspects of that. And now with more and more technology, that learning can be whenever and wherever as well.
Right.
That's a lot of possibilities.
I guess that's what we learned on this call: wherever and whenever. We'll still need our teachers. We'll still need them. That whole idea about civility and mental health supports. It's going to be important that we train our teachers in not only their content area, but to be supportive of young adults and youngsters in the city. But we got great teachers. I wouldn't trade it for anyone. This is my 35th year. September 24th will be my 35th anniversary in the district. I know it hard to believe. I'm only 44 years old. 35 years. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Starting in kindergarten, right?
Yeah, I started. 35 years. It's been great, and I hope I can continue, and I want to continue. I love the job. I just like being in the schools. I really do. It's fun. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. It's been great. What we're going to do again is we will put the video up online, and I'm sure that many other teachers who couldn't join us tonight will be viewing it. So again, thank you. And anybody who has been watching, we want to remind you that in 1 hour, you will receive a thank you email. Thank you for attending. And we ask you to open that up because inside there's just a little survey, and we would like some of your comments regarding what Mr. Laurie has said tonight. If you have any questions, by all means put them in there and we can get them on to him. So with that, is there anybody else who would like to add? Otherwise, we'll say good night.
Good night.
Yes. Good night, everyone. Thank you again for attending. Thank you, Mr. Laurie, for your presentation, and wish everyone has a great week. And we hope to see you in another week.
Good night, everybody, and thank you again, Mr. Laurie.
Good night, everyone.